Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, Brian the Floridian. So today I am coming to you from Bushnell, Florida, and right behind me is the Dade Battlefield, which is a historical state Florida park. So short story on this park is 108 soldiers came through here, U.S. troops came through here back in December of 1835 during the Second and Third Seminole War. So basically the Seminoles were warring with the white settlers in Florida back in the 1800s. After 1821 is when Spain conceded Florida to the United States government. So anyway, back during that time, there were several Florida Seminole Indian wars between the settlers. And at this time, back behind me, during the second or third Seminole War, 108 soldiers came through here and were massacred. So only 2 of them made it out alive. But anyway, I'm here at this park and ready to go inside and check it out. So you guys come back and follow me. Alright guys, so I'm inside the park. So this battle actually happened during the Second Seminole Indian War. And what happened was, there was a Fort King in Ocala, Florida that was being established. And Fort Brooke was in Tampa. So what happened was that the United States government were sending 108 soldiers, U.S. troops, during the December after Christmas to go up to Fort King and reinforce that fort. At the time, there was a treaty that was signed between the Seminole Indians and the U.S. government to kind of like, you know, they would agree to move out of the state of Florida, go west of Florida, you know, settle in different places. But you know, but there was a few of them that didn't want to do that. Some of the elders didn't want to do that, including Chief Osceola, who's head of the Seminole Indian tribe at the time. So what happened was, these troops came through here, had no idea what was going on, just came through here. This is about 100 miles west. I'm sorry, 100 miles north of Tampa, Bushnell, Florida. And this land is actually where it happened, the Dade Battlefield. That's what they call this. So what happened was, Major Langford Dade, Francis Langford Dade, was the one that led that regiment, that those collection of troops to come through here, all 108 of them, and they were wearing just full battle gear, just like long sleeve coats, you know, like long sleeve coats and pants, blue, like the blue wool from that time period. Just really looking pretty laid down with military garb and equipment too. They were pulling cannons too with them to reinforce that Fort King in Ocala. So keep in mind, they came through here, had no idea about the land, and along the way there was 180 Seminole Indians that were just kind of just tracking them, just watching them to see what they were doing, just ready to pounce on them. So at the time that they came through here, I want to say December 27th is when they finally fired their arrows and dropped about half the soldiers here. So half of them managed to crawl in the woods and crawl away, reinforce some logs and build like a little makeshift fort to kind of like, you know, a little kind of to basically protect themselves from the rest of the soldiers, the Indian soldiers, the Seminoles. And to make a long story short, all but 2 end up perishing in this massacre. So only 2 survived. So 2 crawled away. Ransom Clark was one of the soldiers that crawled away, and also William Sprague. So I believe Ransom Clark later succumbed to his injuries, but he made it to Fort King in Ocala before he passed away. But it would be like 2 months later before anybody came back to claim the bodies here or to see what was going on. And by that time, it was still cold. It was actually cold back then in Florida. The bodies were actually preserved, and they were able to identify the remains. So right now, I'm inside the park, so I'm gonna take a look inside the park and see what we can find here. So you guys follow me. Alright guys, so going down this long road here actually takes you to the visitor center, which is right here. Let's see that. We're gonna walk right inside and take a look. So this is a Florida State Park that is funded by, I'm not sure it's federally funded, but it's definitely a Florida State Park, and it is staffed by let's say volunteers and also by Florida State employees here. So this is the entrance to the gift shop here. Alright, first thing when you walk in here is this. You see some Seminole Indian crafts here. Different symbols right there. Some various brochures here.
Hi.
How you doing? And here's a large picture of depicting the battle that took place here at Dade Battlefield here. So you can see like the long jackets, blue jackets and pants they wore through December 1835 here when they walked through here. And they were pretty much ambushed. They just didn't know what was coming to them. Alright, here's another exhibit right here. That's kind of like the style of clothing they wore back when they were crossing through here. The US soldier type garb they were wearing. A little bit more darker than the red coats that the British wore, but alright, so take a look over here. Is one of the Seminole Indian warriors here. So I believe at the time they had rifles too, so they also had firearms to combat the US troops. Let's see what it says right here. It says the Seminoles picked the site for their battle against Dade's command. They arrived before the soldiers and waited. Their clothing and equipment were well suited to the style of warfare they knew in the battle they expected to fight. A Seminole dressed for battle usually wore a long shirt or tunic as clothing, moccasins for shoes. He often bound his head with a cloth stripe. If he was traveling through difficult country, especially in its winter, the Seminole donned leggings for protection. A warrior carried his rifle in his hands, his powder and a horn, his shot and a few other necessities in a small bag or pouch. So let's take a look at this warrior here. That's typically what they wore back then. Alright, little picture depicting a little bit of the battle. So this is in the visitor center here when you walk in here. Just a little bit of history about the leading up to the Second Seminole War. So conflicts between the American settlers and the Seminoles over ownership of cattle and slaves contributed to the First Seminole War. And in 1818, Andrew Jackson violated the Spanish territory of Florida in order to control the Seminoles. It looks like Chief, not sure who, that's one of the Seminole Indians there. Alright, just some artifacts there they found, possibly here. And there is Andrew Jackson right there. To chastise a savage foe who, combined with a lawless band of Negro brigades, have, for some point, past been carrying on a cruel and provoked war against the citizens of the United States, has compelled the President to direct me to march my army to Florida. Alright, so Florida became a territory in 1821, which was conceded from Spain, as you can see right here. And at the time, James Monroe was the president. So several treaties here were established to try to get the Indians out of Florida, which made many of them unhappy. Alright, some of the one of the settler cabins here around that time period. Alright, so Prelude to War. So it kind of gives you a good synopsis of what was going on this whole wall right here. And that's one thing I noticed is like there was a lot of blacks that were in the Seminole tribe, so they were welcomed by the Seminoles and treated as equals in return for joining them and fighting against the settlers. And there is Chief Osceola of the Red Stick Creeks, descendant of the Red Stick Creeks. One of the black interpreters. So there were interpreters for the Indians that were African American. Right. Andrew Jackson became president of the United States in 1830. He gave his strong personal support to Indian regulation efforts. Congress responded by passage of the Indian Removal Act on May 28, 1830, which provided Western land as compensation for Indian land in the East. So that's what we were talking about earlier. Alright, there is Chief Osceola supposedly driving his knife through the document laying on the table before General Clinch. Huh. Alright, so this is the battle, December 28, 1835. And there's a little depiction of the soldiers coming through here with the Seminole Indians lying in wait. Okay, that is Fort Brooke in Tampa. So, like I was saying, Fort Brooke here in Tampa, and that is where the battle here happened. Monday, December 28th, which is 1835, and that's Fort King, Ocala. And that's the kind of flintlock muskets they used back then. the Seminole chiefs made plans to strike at the U.S. military force in Florida and kill the Indian agent at Fort King. Major Dade's march from Fort Brooke to Fort King afforded the Seminoles the opportunity to attack a military force and a show of strength. Intermingled with this plan to attack the U.S. troops was Osceola's desire for revenge against the Indian agent Willie Thompson, who had humiliated him. Osceola intended to kill the agent and then lead an attack against Major Dade's forces. Osceola's desire for revenge ultimately prevented him from being present at the attack on Dade. Troops under the command of Brevet Major Francis Longhorn Dade were attacked on December 28th on the military road 30 miles from the final destination, Fort King. So 100 miles north of Tampa. The open country gave the troops a false sense of security, and Indians who had carefully watched their entire march for 5 days took the troops by surprise. And there is Micanopy, the Seminole chief, also who waited to attack the soldiers there. So he was actually the one, Micanopy was actually one that orchestrated the massacre here. So at the same time, Osceola lied in wait to kill Willie Thompson up at Fort King in Ocala. And it looks like from this picture, the description, he did what he wanted to do. He riddled Thompson with 14 balls. He had cut his vow to kill his enemy Thompson, but missed joining Micanopy in their planned battle against American forces at Dade Battlefield. Alright, here's another recreation of the battle there. There is the soldiers off right about there coming in through the area here with the soldiers, Seminole warriors waiting, lying in wait. Alright, here's another mural here. Alright. Lieutenant William Elon Passenger, one of the few men left standing, speaks in the same voice. Boys, I'm the only one left. Let's do the best we can. There's William Passenger right there. Alright, so alright, after the battle here, this talks about the 105 men that were laying where they fell. So 2 months later they came back and found them. So I believe they were buried here on this property. Some of the artifacts were found here, looks like. Buttons, rifle butt plates, lead shot. Alright, 7 survivors right here. It's kind of interesting because it says like only 2 survivors were left from the battle, but they're showing 5 here. So I wonder if some of these people, some of these soldiers actually passed away a little bit after the battle and contribute to that final count. Alright, so that was the Second Seminole War, 1835, which the Dade Battlefield battle marked the first part of that war. kind of musket they would typically use for this battle during the Second Seminole War. And a bayonet also. Alright, so anyway, let's go take a look outside and see what we will find.
Within and around this barricade, a war began. It was December 28, 1835, when Seminole people challenged the U.S. Army and won.
Alright, so guys, after the first half of the regiment fell to the Seminole warriors, the remaining guys, the remaining soldiers actually put down these logs. They actually pulled out these hatchets and started cutting down these trees, making these makeshift log barriers to the astonishment of the Seminole warriors. So the Seminole warriors were kind of like astonished about what they were doing. So they were trying to fortify or make just any kind of barrier to protect themselves from the Seminole Indians. So this is what they came up with. This is like a reenactment of what they used. They just basically cut down the trees with their hatchets right here. Just lay them across, you know, across a few of them one by one. And as you can tell, there's not much, there's not too much covering there to shield them from the bullets from the, or the lead balls from the muskets from the Seminole warriors. So it wasn't a very good idea, but they tried to do what the best they could. And this is the first thing you see when you walk along the trail of the battle trail of where the actual battle happened. Alright, so this is the trail from what the gentleman behind me was saying was where the actual battle happened, along this little trail along this part of the park. Alright, let's take a look and see what it says right there. Up this peaceful road from Fort Brooke toward Fort King came Dade's men to their deaths. Fort Brooke of 1835 is the Tampa of today. Fort King, 106 miles north of the military road, is now Ocala. Alright, let's take a look down here. So you can just imagine the soldiers just walking down this road. And over here and over there would be the Seminole warriors waiting, just watching them. And one thing about this park, there's a lot of little placards and markers about different parts of history about the battle, and also just about Florida history. Take a look down there. Another placard here about detailing the battle here. All right, so anyway, there is definitely old Florida right here. And it's kind of eerie to be walking down this road knowing that that's what happened back in 1835. Just amazing how peaceful it is out here. And here's another placard about detailing the massacre that happened out here. So by this time, half of Major Dade's command lay dead or wounded. Huh. Alright, so anyway, let's take a look down around this bend right here. Right, here comes another monument, which I came from over this bridge right here, but there's a little opening here. You can actually walk over here and come over this little stream. It's kind of interesting there. Kind of a cool little bridge right there. Alright, let's take a look over here. So here Lieutenant Mudge fell. Don't know if that's really true or not, but I would not doubt that. But anyway, look how peaceful it is over here. These big Florida oak trees right there. I can see how easy it would be to hear someone walking through the woods, just crawling and waiting and wait for an ambush out here. The second phase of the battle lasted until about 2 p.m. Most of the force of 108 men had been killed. The wounded were dispatched by the enemy after the battle ended, with the exception of 3 members of Major Dade's force who survived the attack and returned to Fort Brooke. Chief Alligator, I'm not sure that's where the word alligator came from, but that's interesting. The Seminole leader claimed that only 3 of his warriors were killed and only 5 were wounded, which is kind of hard to believe since you know the United States military also had a cannon with them and plenty of muskets and firearms to also combat this ambush. So I want to say more of them passed away than what's mentioned on that placard back there. But look at the beautiful oak trees here, Florida trees that were probably here during that time period, possibly the original ones. So here's another monument right here. Here Captain Fraser fell. And it's a bigger monument there against the backdrop of these trees right there in the background. And there is a train in the distance whistling, as you can tell from here. Alright, so take another look over here in the placard. This one is the last placard, I believe, on this trail. The scene of the ambush remained deserted for 7 weeks. Finally, on February 20th, 1836, an expedition under General Gaines arrived here, identified the bodies, gave them proper burial with military rites, placing the officers' bodies on the east side of the trail, and the enlisted men in 2 graves within the redoubt. The small cannon was retrieved from a nearby pond in which the Seminoles had thrown it. They mounted it muzzle down as a monument to the dead. Almost 6 years later, on August 15, 1842, the officers and the men of the army contributed funds to pay for a second interment, and Dade's silent command now rests in the National Cemetery at St. Augustine. Huh, okay. Alright, so they are buried in St. Augustine, looks like. Take a look down here. And this is kind of like where we first came in. And keep in mind, this place is pretty big, so I'm just only walking the trail, one of the trails where the main trail where reputedly the battle happened, right along this trail here. Here Major Dade fell. So that is reportedly where he fell when he was first shot. So anyway, guys, this is where you drive into the park. There's a bunch of little places you can have picnic tables to enjoy your lunch, possibly have a picnic. Little gazebos over here. off in the distance right there. And let's go take a look at those and take a look beyond that. What's beyond that? Alright, so I just walked from way over there and over here by this gazebo over here. There's some bathrooms here. There's a few places where you kind of do a nature trail if you want to. And there is more tables over here. So let's go take a little walk and gander down here and see what's down here. Alright guys, interesting thing here. This is a pavilion with a picnic table there, but didn't really know what was in here, so I kind of walked by. But I found this little thing here. Little bit of a history there. So this is the cannon that they dragged with them through this battlefield, this territory, before they got to Fort King. A replica of the cannon used by the Dade's command when they were attacked. So this is what it looks like. You guys can see that. I'll have a good picture there. So they only had one cannon, keep in mind. So they only had one cannon against about 180 Seminoles to push back the ambush. But anyway, this happened to be in this pavilion here, so it's kind of interesting. But anyway, there's another one over there I'm going to go check out. And the pavilions are basically named after different officers of the U.S. Military back then. I noticed that too also. So let's go check out this other pavilion down over here. So nothing here. Wah, 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 wah. But anyway, there is a bunch of picnic tables here. Did find an interesting bell right there, but there's no way to ring the bell. Alright, let me reach that. I can't reach it. So anyway, let's go take a look at the nature trail. And it's coming this way through here. So I am on the nature trail, and this is what is the first thing I see. These big, beautiful oak trees right there. And these have been here probably at least a century. I mean, the branches are already stretched to the ground, so a little canopy here. Wow, just think about all the soldiers or Native Americans that might have climbed this tree at one time, or even settlers. Alright guys, so every year they have reenactments or the battle here at Dade Battlefield. And this is the Dade Battlefield viewing mound. So you can actually sit up there and watch the enactments. I believe would be right about here. But let's take a look at this little placard right here. The Florida Park Service recognizes in appreciation of the Dade Battlefield Society and volunteer Seminole and soldier reenactors for the support of the annual presentation of the Dade Battlefield reenactment, presented on the 20th annual reenactment, December 30th and 31st, 2000. So I'm not really sure when they have their reenactments here, but I think it'd be pretty cool to watch them from out here. As you can tell, there's speakers up here on these poles. I'm not sure if they just for like the sound enhancement from the battle reenactments. Alright, so anyway, the trail is that way, so let's go continue our way down the trail. Alright, so here's one of the trails I'm going to be walking here, the Pine Flatwoods Trail. So let's go take a look. And there is plenty of old Florida right here. It's just so peaceful and quiet along right here. And many more placards around here too to look at along your trail hiking endeavors. Please take nothing but pictures, but leave nothing but footprints. I think I will do that. Alright guys, so I've been walking on this nature trail for a while, and it seems to be about at least a half a mile, maybe close to a mile. I think hopefully I'm halfway through, but it is beautiful around here. Nothing but nature and lots of birds singing in the background. I saw a few gopher tortoises back that way. But anyway, let me show you what I just came upon right here. Kind of interesting here. So guys, I was wondering how they kept this place beautiful, but they actually shaped it by fire according to the sign. So they have controlled fires here, and it looks like there's a little bit of evidence of fire on some of the trunks here. So they kind of periodically burn this a little bit to make it, to kind of kill a lot of the overgrowth here. So, but it's all done for a purpose, for nature. And I am going to continue walking down this trail, and I'll see you guys later. Alright guys, so this is the 250-year-old tree that's on this property, on the very edge of this Dade Battlefield property. And from what I understand, they date this old oak tree to about 250 years ago. And as you can see, it's pretty majestic. And it is very, very huge. Let me just get a good close-up of this tree. Right, so that's my hand. This is an enormous tree. So anyway, there's a little place here to sit down for your viewing pleasure. And this is the last part of my tour, and I'm going to be walking back to my car, actually back to the visitor center. Alright guys, so that's the end of my video. So I walked the nature trail, I saw a few woodpeckers, I saw a gopher tortoise, and was just surrounded by beautiful nature, just nice and quiet by myself. But anyway, the 250-year-old tree is behind me back there, and my car is a few hundred feet in front of me. So this is the last part of my video. If you guys enjoyed it, hit the like, subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet, and let me know if you like this video. I like to do more of these out of the beaten path places in Florida to check out on my adventures, so let me know if you like them, and I'll do some more. Take care.